This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. Delighted to be joined by Dalton Smith. We're here in Glasgow ahead of the World Boxing Super Series semi-final. But by the time this goes out, everything would have been decided. So let's not talk about that. Dalton, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me here.
You're very welcome. We've been meaning to do this for quite a while, actually. Obviously, you made your debut in Nottingham not too long ago. Successful debut, might I add. But yeah, thanks very much for sitting down with me. You're somebody I've heard an awful lot about over the years. First and foremost, why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got started in boxing?
Yeah, originally I first got into boxing. My dad took me to a boxing gym. I was playing football at the same time, and then I had a choice whether to stick to boxing or football, which I was a terrible footballer. But no, I stuck to boxing. Like you say, I haven't looked back since.
Now, your dad, Grant Smith, obviously your trainer, trains a number of other fighters, Sonny Edwards, Charlie Edwards, Lee McGregor, who's just behind you there. Was he ever pushing you into boxing? Was it something that he suggested? Was it something that you came to him about? Explain that dynamic for me.
Like I say, it was never too harsh on me when I was younger. He always let me do what I enjoyed, but like I say, I enjoyed boxing. But to be fair, he wasn't too soft where he'd let me get away with things if I was sticking to something, and make sure I was giving 100%. So in a way, it was a little bit harsh like that. Made sure I did everything right, but I've got everything to thank him for now. He's got me in a position where I can make it and become a full-time boxer. So yeah, I've got to thank him for that.
Now, I know you wouldn't be able to guess by looking at me, but I used to play football at a decent level, and my dad was my coach for a part of it. So I understand the little nuances of having your dad as your coach and stuff. Yeah. Did you ever have any moments where you were thinking, God, man, I really wish my dad wasn't my coach, or other times where you were kind of thankful that he was your coach?
Yeah and no. Like I think growing up, you go through them stages where you think, is it for me? Do I really want to do it? But I think you outgrow them, and that's what decides whether you're going to make it or not. So I got through them. Obviously, I think I had it a little bit harder with my dad being my coach as well, and obviously being a father at home. It's a bit intense, but I got through that and it's worked. So, and I wouldn't have it any other way now.
Now I've spoken to Sonny, I've spoken to Charlie about kind of your dad and what he's actually like. By all accounts, he's quite a stern taskmaster. Is that what he's like away from the gym as well?
Yeah, he's straight to the point really. There's no BS around him. He just tells you how it is, and if he's got something to say, he'll say it. But, he's pretty easygoing. He's easy to get on with. I think I have a few more arguments than what the other lads do, but I think I can get away with that. But no, he's quite easy to work with, and he works with the lads. So,
are you able to kind of leave work at work, leave what's in the gym at the gym, or does it kind of filter into your personal life with your dad?
No, I think obviously it is. Sometimes when you are at home, it is a little bit like, it's boxing 24/7, but it does switch off a little bit. But then again, it's always in the back of your head. The boxing's my full-time job. We're both in it, so there's no escaping it really.
When was the first time? I mean, for people who maybe aren't as familiar with your stories, I'm sure they will be. Eventually, you are the most successful amateur to come out of Sheffield. Yeah. Do you ever remember a time when you were an amateur where you kind of felt like, okay, this is definitely for me, I'm really good at this? Because I remember speaking to Luke Campbell, somebody else who's a very successful amateur. I think he lost 6 of his first 8 amateur fights. Yeah. So he said it didn't come until later. Was that something for you, or was it something that you kind of realised straight away, this is for me?
Like I said, I didn't lose my first 6 fights, so I was quite lucky with that. I think I first lost my fifth fight, my first fight, which I lost. But then, no, I think my first year as a schoolboy I won a national title, and I thought, what, I'm actually quite good at this, I enjoy winning. And then after that I won another title, then another title, it just rolled on after that. I just kept enjoying winning and achieving things, and I've just rolled off that, really.
Now, Sheffield, while not known for its kind of amateur fighters and its fighters of amateur pedigree, they've got several notable professionals over the years. I mean, your Johnny Nelsons, your Kell Brooks, obviously Prince Nassim Hamed. Were they guys that you looked to before you took up boxing? And if not, what other fighters kind of inspired you or influenced you growing up?
Yeah, 100%. When you've got them Sheffield fighters around you growing up, and Prince Nassim was just on the scene as obviously when I was younger. But like I said, watching your Johnny Nelsons, your Ryan Rhodes, Kell Brooks, and obviously Kid Gallagher boxing for a world title now. It's been quite a successful city through boxing. But like you say, we've never had the successful amateur background. So I'm privileged to have that, being the most successful amateur fighter. So, but if I can stamp my name down and be one of them greats, that's what I achieved to do in boxing, and hopefully I can follow in their footsteps.
Now, I've heard about you through the circuit for a number of years. I'd always heard that you were kind of a nailed-on medalist for Tokyo. I know that was a massive ambition of yours to go to the Olympics. I know the story behind it, why you didn't go, but why don't you just tell people who maybe aren't familiar with your reasons for turning over?
Yeah, like I say, it's been put out there before, but it was just a weight changing really. Like before Christmas, I thought my number one goal was to get to an Olympic Games. Obviously, it ends you've got to qualify and stuff, but once the rule come out with AIBA, they was taking 2 male weights out to put 2 female weights in, because obviously the 10 weights in the Olympics. You know, that affected me, and I wouldn't be able to do the lower weight or the higher weight. You know, it just messed it up, so I had no choice to turn professional really, so that kind of got took away from me. But you know, things happen for a reason, and like I said, the journey what I'm on now, it's a totally different ball game, and you know, that's behind me, and I'm just thinking ahead of the future now.
Was there ever a moment where you kind of thought that you could stick it out? I mean, I understand the weight cut would have been severe, particularly in amateurs. It's not like the pros; you have to stay on the weight throughout tournaments. Was it pretty much a certainty when you found out about that you were going to have to go pro?
Yeah, as well as the frustration being there, I had my hand injuries and stuff, and I just think the protection in the amateurs, it was taking its toll on my hands. And then obviously when the weights come out, I was thinking, you know what, do I want to be killing myself making a weight? Because I can't move up, I don't even walk around that out of camp. So no, I had no other option to turn over really. So I think once the combination of the two things come in, you know, I sat down with my dad and we thought, you know what, it's the right decision to look to turn over.
How did it change your preparations? Obviously, your dad is somebody who's looked after a number of professional fighters very successfully in not a short space of time. I think it's fair to say that recently he's got a lot more attention, obviously with Charlie and such. How did it change your preparations in the gym with your dad? Were you still doing the same stuff? Have you tweaked it, or was it completely different?
It was hard really, because in the amateurs, obviously I'm training Monday to Thursday, and like, the training down there is hard. You know, it's quite intense. On the weekends, you don't really want to train much. You want to rest for the next week. So I used to find it hard getting some technical work in with my dad, but obviously now I'm back full time with him. We just went back to the basics, settled down, picked up all the little faults what I picked up over the years. But you know, I learned a lot with Great Britain, all the GB coaches down there, you know, the top coaches. But I was just used to my dad, you know, I've been there with him since I was 5 years old. He knew me better than anybody else, so it was just nice to go back to the basics and correct the little changes.
Now, we've spoken about your dad, obviously, at numerous points so far in this interview. One thing we haven't spoken about is the accident that you had. Now, people who are watching this who aren't familiar, your dad had a very serious accident and is somewhat lucky to be with us, I think it's fair to say. Why don't you just tell us, first of all, the story of what actually happened? It's quite unbelievable.
Yeah, he's very lucky, and the older I get, I realise how lucky he actually is. You know, he dropped us off at the boxing gym. I think I might have been 7, 8. I'm not quite sure, but he went out, he used to stay fit, he was out jogging, and he got hit by a 60-ton super tram, I think it was, however many tons it was. You know, got hit head on. They gave him 24 hours to live, and they said if he does survive, you know, he'd be in a wheelchair, won't be able to function properly. But yeah, he signed himself out of hospital after 7 days, and he's here to the day training world champions and doing what he loves best, and that's training fighters.
Do you kind of remember what it was like to get that news? I mean, being 8 years old is a difficult time to process any serious event, let alone something like that. Do you remember what it was like?
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. You know, as we come out with the gym, the tram stop was right there, and my dad's mate come and picked us up, and obviously he was shook, upset, and obviously we was a bit startled, but I think as a kid you don't really know how serious it was at the time. But I remember coming out with the gym, seeing all the ambulance, the accidents there, and you're like, you know, something's going off here. And for this first couple, like, however, when he first was in hospital, he had brain surgery and stuff, and he couldn't speak. He was in a bad way, so we weren't allowed up to see him just because of the state he was in. I don't think my dad wanted us to go up and see him in that way anyway, but yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. And obviously the older I get now, I realise how lucky he is to be here, and just to be healthy and doing what he's doing.
What does that say about your dad? I mean, you just mentioned he signed himself out of the hospital after 7 days. What does that say about the character of your dad?
You know, that just sums him up, you know, in that little description I've just told him. But you know, he's a very hard man, and he don't let things faze him. You know, being a single parent at the time, raising me and my 2 sisters, you know, he did have it hard, but you know, that just sums him up as a parent, as a person. You know, he's tough as nails, and I think sometimes when I'm having a hard day in the gym, I think, you know, what he's come back from, you know, it opens your eyes really. But yeah, he's a strong man, and you know, I think now he's getting the credit what he deserves to come back and do what he's doing.
Didn't know you had 2 sisters. Older sisters, younger sisters?
2 older sisters. They both boxed, like national finalists. So they was decent as well, but they're retired now.
Did you ever spar with them? You ever mess around with them in the gym?
No, I was always younger than them, but to be fair, they knew how to handle themselves. I used to stay away from them.
So quite often, sometimes you get fighters who have got younger sisters or younger siblings, and it's kind of like you get that. Well, I don't know if you get that kind of protective elder sibling. Was it like that for them with you? Were they always looking out for you and looking after you?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, saying that the sisters were like having two older brothers, you know, they was always looking out for me, and people said like, oh, your sisters are scary and stuff, but, you know, they looked after me when I was little, but, you know, I've always said I'd rather have two brothers than sisters, but, yeah, I used to try and not get too cheeky with them.
Tell me about the dynamic of working in the gym. I've mentioned Sonny Edwards, who's very much a live wire. Charlie, different to Sonny, but again, somebody who's very, very kind of easygoing and laid back. And now you've got Lee. What's it like in the gym having guys who you're all around the same sort of age, you're all at similar points of your career? Charlie aside is obviously world champion. What's it like having guys like that to bounce off in the gym and to really bring you forward?
You know, I wouldn't have it any other way, you know, and obviously Lee McGregor coming to the stable now. You know, he's like a little family in the gym. We all bounce off each other, and, you know, it's the vibe when you go in the gym, it's something else, you know. You enjoy training, we pick each other up when we're down. Like I said, Sonny and Charlie like chalk and cheese. You don't think they were brothers, but, you know, that's what makes them who they are, and, you know, we're all like a little family, so it's great in the gym.
What was it like making your professional debut? Obviously, your successful professional debut in Nottingham. A few butterflies in the dressing room before going out?
Oh yeah, I was absolutely crapping myself coming out. Obviously, I've boxed a lot better fighters days, but there was a lot of media and a lot of build up to me turning professional and stuff. So obviously, when you're walking down, ready to come out for my ring walk, I'm stood there thinking, you know what, it's all this hype, but I've actually got to prove what I'm here to do now and fight, which I did. You know, I was a durable opponent, didn't get him out of there, but, you know, he was experienced. But no, I performed, so it come off out everything I dreamt it to be, so it was good.
How is that different? I mean, you've just mentioned that it's something that when you're talking to decorated amateurs such as yourself, it's quite an interesting dynamic. As you've mentioned, you've boxed guys who are going to be better than probably the first 10 or 12 opponents that you're going to face in the amateurs. How and in the professional, sorry, how do you adjust your mentality to that? Is it just very much thinking about yourself, or how is that? Because you're going from such a high level as an amateur to, with the greatest respect to your opponents, not the best level as a professional.
I think I've always been one of those who rises to the occasion, the pressure. I've been there, boxed, like you said, some of the world's best fighters in the World Series of Boxing and stuff, so I've never really crumbled under pressure. I've always thrived off it, so I think I'll just be the same in the professionals. Like you say, even though my opponent weren't up to the scratch what I boxed in the amateurs and stuff, you know, it's still a big platform, and it's, like you say, it's a big stage to be on, so you need to perform. But I think as I move on in my career, I'll rise to it when the occasion's bigger, and I'll just thrive off it.
Okay, well, just finally before we go, because although this isn't going to come out until after the World Boxing Super Series, we do have to go to the show. What's the future like for Dalton Smith? I'm sure you've got your eye on world titles. Everybody I've spoken to about you for a number of years have talked about you with world titles. Just how far are you looking to go in the professional game?
Like you say, I want to be, the pinnacle is to be a world champion, if not a multiple weight world champion, multi-time world champion. But, you know, just to be on big stages like this, like Josh Taylor is on tonight boxing for a world title, you know, I believe one day that's where I'll get. I know it's going to be a long process, but I know how dedicated I am and how much the sport means to me. I know one day I'll get there.
Okay, well, Dalton Smith, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Okay, thank you.
Apologies it's taken this long. We've been trying to sort this out for a while, but look forward to catching.
More to talk about now.
Yeah, we do. We have more to talk about now. Look forward to catching up with you soon, and look forward to your return to the ring.
Thank you, appreciate it.
That's great.